If you think working out just in a simple fasted state is great, try working out at the very end of your fast and breaking your fast after your workout. That's a whole new world of benefits. I encourage you to try fasting during different times. Okay, if you work out in the morning, try fasting throughout the day and night, and then work out in the morning. Break your fast after your workout at the end of your fast. It's just something different to try. And it's something that I've been experimenting with and doing a couple days per week just to get added benefits. So in typical Thomas DeLauer fashion, we dive into the research. Let's jump right into it. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to turn on those notifications. Okay, so number one, a benefit to doing this. At the end of a fast, your fat cells in general are more mobilized. Okay, you have more enzymes in the way of what is called adipose triglyceride lipase. Okay, and you also have more hormone sensitive lipase. These are enzymes that are mobilizing fat. The more fat that is mobilized, i.e. deeper into a fast, the more fat that can get combusted and burned. We also have a lot more of what is called CD36. This is a lipid transporter, actually moves the fat in and out of the cell where it needs to go. So we have more of that. The Journal of Physiology published a study that demonstrated if you are working out in a fed state, you're only combusting 50% of the fat that you could be. If you're in a fasted state, you're combusting, utilizing a lot more of that fat. So we all kind of know that, but if you're working out deeper into a fast, whereas let's say working out at hour 16 versus hour 10, that's 6 more hours of enzyme activity and fat liberation and mobilization that you can utilize, right? So let's take advantage of that. Number 2, the mitochondria content will increase quicker. This is complex gobbledygook, right? Actually, no, it's pretty simple. Mitochondria is where we create energy, but it's also where we burn fat. We want more mitochondria. It's called mitochondrial density. Now, we want mitochondria to go through mitochondrial biogenesis. That is basically the birthing of new mitochondria. More mitochondria, good. Well, the European Journal of Applied Physiology took a look at cyclists that were training at 65% of their VO2 max for an hour, and divided into 2 groups. One group was in a fasted state with depleted glycogen. They didn't have energy stored up in their muscles in the form of carbohydrates. The other group did. The other group was essentially fed or had full glycogen. Well, what's interesting is when you are training in a fasted state or training in general, you have an elevation of a specific gene, it's called PGC1A, that increases mitochondrial biogenesis. It creates more mitochondria. So this PGC1A is very important. The fed group with full glycogen had an increase of 2.5-fold, so 2.5x increase in PGC1A, that much more mitochondrial biogenesis. Guess how much the fasted group had? 8.1x. So almost 4 times as much PGC1A, which creates more mitochondria produced. What does that mean? It means if you work out deeper in a fasted state, you earn more potential to burn more fat later on because you've created more fat burning factories. You've also gotten better at your workout because you've created your oxygen consumption capacity. Okay, you've increased the amount of oxygen your body can use because you have more mitochondria. So you ultimately become a better athlete, at least one could argue that. Then number 3, which is what I think the biggest one and why I wanted to do this video in the first place, it's nutrition related. If you're breaking your fast after your workout, you have 2 benefits that are coming at you. One, you get to consume a great post-workout meal that's going to contribute to building muscle, but you also get to break your fast with your post-workout meal, which means you're riding on 2 different forms of insulin sensitivity coming from 2 different things. You see, insulin sensitivity is what we want when it comes down to recovering and building good quality muscle. After a workout, you're insulin sensitive, so you typically consume your protein shake or whatever it is so that your body can uptake that protein and allow it to do something with it, build muscle. Well, you're also sensitive to insulin at the end of a fast. So you kind of have a double whammy if you're training deep in a fasted state because you're extra insulin sensitive, which means you get the benefit of not only breaking your fast with good quality food, but that good quality food is likely going to go towards recovering the muscle after your workout. This is the perfect time where you get your good quality protein in and you can actually ensure that it goes to the right places. I mean, protein's always going to go to the right places. It's going to go to where your brain sends it because your body knows best. But if you're creating a protein demand because you're working out and then you're already insulin sensitive, it's going to make it so that protein or any carbohydrates that you take in are going to the right place. I highly recommend, if you want to check out a good place to get good quality protein, I put a link down below to ButcherBox. They're an online meat delivery company. They're pretty much who I use all the time these days, because it's a lot cheaper for me to go through ButcherBox than it is for me to drive to the grocery store, pick out lower quality meat that I don't know exactly where it's coming from. Anyhow, point is, there's a special link down below for people that view my channel. If you haven't already tried ButcherBox, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you give it a shot, because it gets delivered right to your doorstep. It's that easy, and it's hands off. So assuming that you're eating the right protein, assuming that you're getting that good quality stuff in, let's talk about longevity for just a second. Okay, we have this gene called SIRT1, and SIRT1 is largely associated with longevity in the first place. It's kind of known as the anti-aging gene, and it really has to do with the whole calorie deprivation thing. There's a lot of evidence out there that shows that if you decrease calories, you increase longevity. SIRT1 is usually the focal point of that. Well, what's interesting is there's some studies that show that if you work out deep in a fasted state, you have a larger spike in the expression of this SIRT1. The European Journal of Applied Physiology published a study that looked at doing high-intensity interval training, quick, rapid sprints, like short, like 10, 15 seconds, okay, in a fasted state. And it found that in a fasted state, there was a pretty big surge of SIRT1, which gives birth to PGC1A, which we talked about with mitochondrial biogenesis, sort of the father of everything related to lipid homeostasis. And what that means is doing intervals deep in a fasted state has huge longevity benefits. And what was wild with this study is if they gave subjects glucose before they did the intervals, the SIRT1 benefit was abolished. So this SIRT1 longevity benefit, if you want to call it that, only comes to be if you're fasted. And essentially, the deeper that you are into a fasted state, the more benefit you're going to get from a longevity perspective. Just one more reason to work out at the end of your fast. This fifth and final one is going to be one that you're going to be exceptionally interested in if you're looking to get like lean, harder looking muscles. Okay, it has to do with increasing autophagy at the musculoskeletal level, within the muscle itself. We all know that fasting induces autophagy, okay? And autophagy has its pros and cons and yada yada, okay? But autophagy can occur at the muscular level. When we work out, we break down our muscle fibers, and that creates a lot of sarcoplasmic debris. Okay, break down muscle fibers, it leaves debris. Well, that debris gets cleaned up by the autophagy. Okay, and autophagy is going to take that muscle fiber debris and it's going to put it where it needs to go and repair it in some ways and get rid of the wasteful stuff. So you end up with higher quality muscle overall. There was a study that was published in the journal Cell that showed that when you inhibited autophagy, it hurt muscle recovery. So muscle recovery was higher with a good degree of autophagy. That doesn't mean that you should be fasting all the time. If you're not getting protein in, then what good does that do? Again, I've done videos talking about muscle protein breakdown and proper replenishment. That's a story for a different day. But the deeper that you are into a fast, the more autophagy you have, which means the more sarcoplasmic debris that gets cleaned up. Now, there's another benefit too. Okay, we have these things called satellite cells. Satellite cells sit kind of outside of our typical muscle fiber. And what happens is when we break down our muscle fiber, these satellite cells fuse to the existing muscle fiber to make it bigger. So they sort of hover on the outside, just waiting to fuse when they have the right stimulus. Well, it turns out that autophagy can provide sort of an energy source for these satellite cells. If these satellite cells can fuse better, then that means our muscle fibers, our muscle cells, have more nuclei. More nuclei means more ability to take on more protein and get bigger, stronger, and denser. So in essence, autophagy will create a higher quality muscle, which very well could result in a higher quality looking muscle. So if this doesn't convince you to at least experiment on yourself and try fasting for a different time period so that your workout lands at the end, I don't know what will, because there's a lot of evidence that shows the deeper the fast, the better the workout, the better the result. See you tomorrow.